Data lineage is a term that you're going to hear on the exam. You're going to be expected to understand, at least theoretically, what it is. You may even see some examples of it. You may even have to answer a question saying why you need it. And so in this two-part video, I want to talk about data lineage, and I'm going to give you some real-world information about it. And then in part two, I'm just going to show you some example of how you can pull data lineage very easily from transact SQL commands to put in your data warehouse. And then through all of this, I want to thread through some things to kind of help you know what to answer on various parts of the exam here. So first of all, you can ask a very simple question. Okay, what is data lineage? And the simple answer is, well, it depends on who you ask. Now, everybody will agree on what data lineage is and what it's supposed to do. Now, the question comes into play when you ask, well, what exactly do you consider to be adequate data lineage? And the best definition that I've seen for data lineage out there is, it is information about the data's origination and the details of the data flow. So the best definition, where is it from, where is it going, and how is it being transformed in the process? Now, this is the same concept as using comments in programming. If you've ever done any programming, you know you put the 2 slashes or the 2 dashes, and you can write your own little notes out there amongst your code. It doesn't compile. It turns a different color, usually green, but you can leave yourself little notes. This is a note to self. This is the same thing data lineage is. We're just putting our notes in our data tables in the row in their own column so that we can come back to it. Now, why do we need this data lineage? We don't have it in the OLTP databases. Well, what we're trying to do is provide metadata context in the data warehouse, because in an OLTP database, we've got units sold, dates sold, you know, the sales territory, all that, and it means just what it says. But once we start grabbing this data from many different locations and dropping it into our data warehouse, we can really start to lose track of where it came from, and future business rules may change and affect that data. For example, we may sell the business, get into some sort of competition, lose a lawsuit, all sorts of things, and certain pieces of our data may now become invalid to our business model. We don't want it included. We don't want it in any of the reports. We just want it to go away. We could make that data suspect. So if we sold certain items to certain people, we found out later that there was something about that transaction that makes it suspect. Maybe our products were having problems. Maybe we never got paid. Anyway, all that stuff could make it suspect, and we want to at least flag that data when it shows up in reports. And something can happen to make data more important over time, and we want to flag that data. So data lineage helps us understand where it came from, where it's going, and what happened to it. And it allows us to identify the data, plain and simple. Now, there are 2 main options for adding data lineage. Make sure you're aware of these for the exam. The first one is if you're using SQL Server Integration Services, or SSIS, there are some system variables built in that you can use. These tend to be higher level variables. And of course, keep in mind, this is only going to work if you're using SQL Server Integration Services. And you can also use T-SQL system functions. So keep in mind, when you're loading data into these tables, you don't just have to use this complex SQL Server Integration Services workflow and all. You can just use basic transact SQL functions that you call. And I'm going to show you an example of some of these transact SQL system functions in part 2 of this video. That will be very cleverly entitled Data Lineage Part 2. So look for that out there and watch that video, and I'll show you some very simple examples, and then you can put these into play in your own data warehouse to put whatever amount of detail in the data lineage that you would like to see. So join me in Part 2, and we'll take a look at some simple T-SQL system functions that you can use. By the way, a lot of folks don't even know about these things, and they're really cool to use for a lot of things, even other than data warehousing. So see you in Part 2.